And we're going to record this to the cloud. Okay, so we are recording now, and we're about to go through our Canvas. We'll talk through the syllabus, and we'll go through some other information that's important for the start of the semester. I know the first session of any class is filled with all this extra boring information, and please feel free to unmute yourselves, raise your hand if you have any questions. You don't have to hold them for the end. Sometimes it's best to just interrupt me, and I don't mind that at all. I'm not very sensitive to being interrupted. I grew up in a big family. So, okay. So introductions and welcome. So the first thing, and I sent you guys a Zoom about this, is that wow, and here it has the same, the 984 versus the 985. Yeah, this is pretty confusing. I wonder if that's the one that we should go to. Let's see. I do want to take a real quick peek at how many people we have here. I'm gonna just real quick. We're missing, it looks like 3 people. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to, hopefully they'll get that email. Okay. Otherwise, I'll try and get together with them privately. All right. So back to home. This is your, this is what you would see in Canvas. We do a lot through Canvas. The first thing that I'd like to do is have everybody introduce themselves. You don't have to do it today, but it would be great if you could do it this week sometime. I'd like you to at least say, hi, what's your interest in this course? Are you a sophomore? You're just trying to fill up your schedule. Are you really interested in CAD? Are you interested in jewelry? Maybe you've already done some sort of CAD. Maybe you've, used a 3D printer in the past. Maybe not. Maybe this is totally new to you and you're not even sure what this has to do with, but that's fine. I'd like you to just introduce yourself a little bit, tell me something interesting about yourself if you like. We do have a discussion board here. I put a post up the other day where I recorded a short video. It's about myself and our approach to this course. Do me a favor, just give it a quick watch. It's like 4 minutes, it's not a whole lot of time, but it tells you a little bit about me and about this course. And so there's that. That's kind of just a soft opening to what we are going to go through. Let's go back to home. Introduce yourself. Now, this is kind of important. What we're doing in this class is we're learning a software program called Rhino. And Rhino is a 3D modeling application, software application. It's created by a company called McNeil. We'll talk about that a little more in depth when we get into the syllabus. And it's not inexpensive, this software. If you plan on doing anything long-term with CAD or in the jewelry field, I would recommend that you purchase this software at some point, especially while you're a student. It only cost about $200. And you're probably all going, $200? You kidding me? But if you don't buy it as a student, then it's going to cost you more like $1,000. So, and you don't have to buy it for the first semester. And I would recommend that you don't until you know that this is something that you really want to do. But there are some people who come into this class knowing that this is where they're going with this. And so in any case, the reason we need remote access is so you guys don't have to buy Rhino. I have to, remote access is granted to individual students. You don't automatically have it as a Temple student. You have to, me as your instructor, I have to request this of the IT people. So that is going to happen actually today. I have to send that list in because I have to send them your TU Access Net ID as well as your name and what course it is that you're that you're taking. And once IT puts you in for remote access, then you're able to log in to the MJCC CAD lab computers from home. What this means is you'll be looking at a computer as if you are right in front of it. And I'm not sure if you can, actually probably not. Okay, I'll have to switch windows to show you what it looks like, but we're going to get into that. But this is really important, and this is a process that I'm going to walk you guys through probably later today or early on Wednesday's class. So let's get that together. And then let's see, what's the next thing? Let's go back here. So we got remote access. And then one of the things that I would like you to do by the end of this week, until January 11th at 12 a.m. Okay, let me go in and unlock that. Okay, it moved us to the next module. So I'll have to go into assignments and unlock that. So I'm going to leave the student view here. And there we go. Back here, we're going to go to assignments. Don't panic when you see how many assignments there are. I'm going to edit this and unlock it. I'm not sure why this didn't. Available from, today. Okay, save. All right, so now that's available. Once you have remote access, then you will be able to go in and complete that assignment. And I'll show you what that means as well. So let's stop, first of all, before we do anything else, and see, does anyone have any questions before we go through the syllabus? I just quickly went through the hybrid, the fact that we are going to need remote access, everybody's going to need remote access, and that we work through Canvas. Do we have any questions about any of that? It was just a little bit of information. Okay. And if we have nothing, and I'm still looking for other folks. All right, I am gonna stop sharing my screen for a minute and real quick gonna send another email. Tempo, and I should have my sense, just because I want to give everybody a chance to get logged in while we're live instead of having to follow along later. Temple. Okay. And nope, it looks like it only went through the other one. Okay. There's that inbox. Let's go with the sense. Nope. Okay. All right. Definitely. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. And here we go. We are still recording. And we're going to go with desktop. Okay. And so at this point, and we're going to go here, courses, we're at CAD 1. And let's go to our syllabus. And here we are. So obviously we're in the spring semester already. We're going to start with my information. My name is Barb Bauer, as I mentioned. Here are my email addresses. I have Barb, oh, you know what? Barb.Bauer, not Barb.Barb. I have to edit that. And Barb@barbbauer.com. This is my cell phone. Feel free to use it. Feel free to text me. If you're having trouble getting into the Zoom, if you're having internet difficulties, if you have a stomach ache and aren't going to make it to class, if something is going on, if you're trying to do homework and get stuck, text me. Text me. I'm pretty responsive generally, unless I'm in the middle of another class or something to that effect. I usually get back to you pretty quickly. Text me, email me. Email, I might get back to a little bit slower than text, but you are welcome to get a hold of me. And who knows, maybe we can do a quick Zoom wherever you are and wherever I am. But I just want you to know that I am accessible if you have any questions at any time. So this is a hybrid class. We're going to have one session per week in the studio, another session per week via Zoom. Mondays in the studio, noon to 2:30. Wednesdays via Zoom, noon to 2:30. So most of the lessons will take place on Canvas. We use Canvas for, I'm going to use Canvas for grades. I use Canvas to keep track of your assignments. And I also use Canvas to post your assignments. And you will be submitting them through Canvas. We'll walk through that in a few minutes. So, so that means you really need to stay hooked into Canvas. If you've got, there's an app for your phone with Canvas. I find it pretty helpful because it will remind you if something's coming up. If you have it set that way, it will remind you if something in the Canvas course changes, if I post an assignment or update an assignment, when an assignment's coming up, those kinds of things. If I comment on your submissions for your lessons, it should let you know that. There's a lot of cool stuff about that. So I've got two meeting places here. Oh my gosh, see, that's what's, this is the problem. Oh my goodness, I see what happened now. Zoom created a different one for Mondays, and it looks like that's the one we're in. All right, I'm gonna have to get all of this re-edited. I put all this together last week, and it totally, between Zoom and Canvas, it looks like they weren't really talking. So now, normally we're going to meet in person, but as we all know, Temple decided that our first 2 weeks are going to be virtual for classes that are non-essential. We're considered non-essential because we're learning a computer software program, and the first 2 weeks we're okay being virtual. So our course description, we're going to learn CAD/CAM. CAD/CAM stands for computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacture. We're going to learn basically 3D modeling using the Rhinoceros software. It's also known as Rhino. And this professional level software is used for 3D modeling across many industries, including product design, architecture, and jewelry. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow these self-guided lessons and assignments. I will give you demos into the trickier parts of it, but Rhino can be a steep learning curve for some people, and but for some of you it might not be. So if you want to race ahead and work faster than the class, you're welcome to do that. If you're working a little slower than the class, then I'm here to help you pick up the pace if that's necessary. Everybody learns at a slightly different pace, and that's okay in this class. But I will try to keep you guys on task with demos and with these assignments. Then, besides the self-guided lessons and assignments, we're going to be doing original projects. There's two major original projects, and then there is some renderings that'll be part of our final crit. So what are the objectives, the learning goals in this class? We're going to use Rhino software to design three-dimensional objects. These objects are virtual or actual objects. And virtual, of course, means that it lives in the computer and can only live in the computer. An actual object that you design in the computer can be output from the computer. A tangible object is an object you hold in your hand. Whoop, there's my hand in the Zoom. Ah, these virtual backgrounds are so weird. So in order to assess those learning goals, we'll be looking at your weekly exercise assignments and your projects. You're going to create a tangible object using designs created in Rhino to control a laser cutter or a water jet cutter. Project 1 will be our assessment tool for that learning objective. Then we're going to create a ring. The ring is made in Rhino, and we use NetFab to clean up the file, and then we export it and send it to our 3D printers in the MJCC labs. It'll be 3D printed, and then we will prepare it for lost wax casting. I'll go into that more. Is anybody here familiar with lost wax casting? Oh, good. Okay, we've got some people. Great. So in some ways, it's sort of, it's an update on an ancient technique that we're going to be creating a printable wax and then casting it. And our fourth learning objective is to use the KeyShot software to create photorealistic renderings of our 3D objects and our models that we create in Rhino. Obviously, we're going to have some rendering exercise assignments, and we're also going to render the projects that we create. Some of the ones from our weekly lessons, and then we're also going to render our ring. So those are how we're going to assess what you learn, and here are our requirements. First of all, I really need you to participate. Obviously, you want to do your work, but it's important that you also interact with myself, also interact during critiques, and it's important that you interact with your fellow students. And you're going to say, oh my gosh, well, we're meeting virtually half the time. How am I going to interact with them? Well, I kind of set things up when we're on Zoom so that you can, we do small breakout rooms so that you can kind of sit with and do independent work with your fellow students. And if you have questions, you ask them, or you call me into the breakout room. More about our class structures when we're online later, but feel free to ask questions. So that's class participation. Interact with others, basically. Project 1, we have layers. That's where we're going to create a basically a two-dimensional pattern that'll be cut using a laser cutter in sheet plastic. And so that's project 1. Project 2 is the cast CAD ring that I was talking about. And then we're going to render that ring also for final critique. And then there's the lessons and assignments. So these are the main things that you're graded on. And here's how they break out for the 100% of your grade. 10% is your class participation. And 50% is your assignments. So you have 11 weeks of assignments. I think it's 11. And that is half of your grade, a full half of your grade. Now, each of them is worth about 5 points. Actually, each of them is worth 5 points. And so that means that, you know, you can get 4 on this one and maybe 2.5 on this one and 3 on that one. Well, this is almost a giveaway. Like, you can rework these assignments and keep submitting them until you get 5. And I suggest that you do that. Number 1, because you need to learn this information. And number 2, that this is half your grade. And if you decide that, oh, a 4 is okay, I mean, out of 5, that's like 80. Well, yeah, except that if you get all 4s, then that's dropped your whole, your entire grade by 10 points at the end of the semester. So please try to get 5s on all those. And I'm usually pretty good about grading them in a timely fashion. So if you see that that you didn't get a 5 on an assignment, then check my comments. I always comment why I didn't give you a 5. And if I give you a 5 most of the time, I'm like, great work, perfect, keep going. But I don't want this to sneak up on you. And then suddenly at the end of or midterm, and we go, oh, hey, look, you're actually getting a C with what you have for your assignments, even though you may have gotten an A on project 1, because project 1 is only 15% of your grade. So I guess what I'm saying is the real main objective of this course is for you to learn Rhino. Your projects are important. Your lessons are the most important, even though they are worth little teeny bits of points. So if anybody has any questions about that, I'm happy to talk about it. So the weekly assignments, project 1 is worth 15% of your grade. You're going to design an object from some sort of sheet, flat 2-dimensional material, and where it's going to get cut in our laser cutter, most likely. We also have a water jet cutter that we can use if there are those of you who have a project that we feel, is a good idea to cut in metal or something else. We can cut a lot of different materials in our water jet cutter. We have a Wazer, if any of you are familiar with that. It's kind of a small scale water jet. And what a water jet cutter does is it uses high pressure water with an abrasive in the water, and it's able to cut through materials like glass, metal, steel, aluminum, silver, gold, brass, bronze, copper. And so it's a really cool tool. And once we're in the studio, I'll take you over to show it to you. So that or our laser cutter. We have 2 laser cutters actually, and those are they're easily controlled. And most students go with the laser cutter because we do include acrylic sheet, clear acrylic sheet, if you want to use for your project 1, and that is included with your course fees. I'll show you how that goes. All right, and then project 2. I started to talk about that. That's our 3D modeled ring. You're going to create that for yourself. You're going to measure your own fingers. You're going to create a ring for your own fingers, and we'll print it out, and then we can cast it in either silver, which will cost you, or bronze, which is included in your course fees. We can talk about, those silver costs, but you're not paying for the button or the sprue, you're just paying for the ring. What we do is we recycle the sprues and the buttons right back into the tool room with our cast silver. So, and that project there is 25% of your grade. So does anybody have any questions about our course objectives, our grading, or the requirements? Okay. And if anybody has any questions afterwards or anything, you're welcome to get in touch with me. So here is, okay. Oh, and let's see, here's our, where we're at with the letter grades. Because this adds up to 100%, this is what you'll end up with. So if you have a 77.5, you're going to end up with a C+. And this is telling you here how this percentage is going to translate into a letter grade. Anything 92.5 and higher is A. There is no A+. Sadly, I wish I could give some people A+. I mean, because gosh, if you get a 95 or a 98 and you're getting the same grade as somebody with a 92, I kind of wish I had A+, but we only have A's and A-. So I do try to keep everything on Canvas. So you're able to go into that grades and take a look at where you are. If you're running behind on your assignments, I'm going to try and remember to go in and put zeros in, because if you're running behind and it still looks like you have an 80 and you're 3 weeks behind, that means I haven't put the zeros in for the assignments you haven't put in yet. So there are assignments from the lessons section every single week until I think like week 10 or 12, probably 12, week 12. And we'll go over that in the timeline. So again, you can see the grades there, or you can talk to me and I can make sure that we update your grades. We can talk about what kind of assignments you need to bring you up to the grade that you need. And I'm happy to work with people who may need extra credit or time outside class. I'm also happy to meet with people during, I can schedule office hours with you. I'm often in the studio as well on the days that we have in-person meetings. I'm here, so on Mondays. When we meet in person, we have this class from 12 to 2:30, and then right after this, I have CAD 2 from 2:40 to 5:10, which means that I could meet with you before CAD 1, or I could meet with you after 5:10 on Monday evenings if I'm available. Sometimes I have commitments on Monday evening and I have to rush out. So, but just an FYI, I'm available on Mondays in the morning mostly. And I'm also available outside of class. We can set up times for you. Required textbooks. So you don't have to buy a textbook for this class. And as a matter of fact, it's going to be really fun when I show you how our lessons and assignments link directly with the software that we're using. There's a menu item in the software that will take you to our lessons. We're using lessons that were put together by McNeil. McNeil is the software company that created Rhino. And as I mentioned earlier, you need access to Rhino via remote access, or you have to come in to the Tyler Computer Labs or a personal copy. By the way, there's also Rhino in the Tech Center, as well as in the architectural, in the architecture building, in the CAD lab that they have. I believe it's on the 4th floor. Thank you, Anne. Yeah, I was looking to you for a nod. It's on the 4th floor. If you get out of the elevators and go straight across, that's where the CAD lab is in the architecture, if you can't get into the MJCC CAD lab. However, we'll talk about the server, and the server is only accessible through the MJCC computers. By the way, MJCC is Metals, Jewelry, CAD, CAM. That's the area that is offering these courses. We are the jewelry department, jewelry and metals. So, or personal copy. As I said, if you know you're gonna be sticking with this, go ahead and buy a copy. There's no reason not to, and you really need to buy it while you're a student. As I said, the discount is unbelievable. So buy it while you're a student, or definitely before you graduate. So, you paid a course fee to register for this, and here's what's included with that. Your laser cutting fees. We don't charge to use the laser cutter, but that is here and included, but we do charge for materials, or you would have to buy materials. So that is included for you in CAD 1 is your clear acrylic sheet. We should have batches of that in the tool room. We also have the castable resin. Normally, as an MJCC student, you would be charged for that 3D print. That is included as well as the bronze for Project 2, your cast ring. If you want to use silver, as I mentioned earlier, that is an option for you. We do keep silver in the tool room, and we make that available for students to purchase. What we do is we weigh out the silver that we give you before it's cast, and then you cast it. We cut off the sprue and the button, and if you don't know what that is, I'll explain that later. It's an extra amount of metal that you need in order to cast your ring. And then all that you pay for is the amount of metal that ended up in your ring, rather than the sprue and the button, which I will tell you can often add, it'll double the amount of silver that you need to use sometimes. You need access to the internet. And you have access to Canvas once you're enrolled in this class. We also, the Temple Library, and then we have the help desk as well. You probably wouldn't need help from the writing center. We don't have a lot of writing in this class. But if you need anything especially with your remote access or any issues with any of the Temple University online resources, it is important. You can also contact the help desk through computer services. And there is I do have a link later on in Canvas somewhere to Tyler's IT people. Technology, specifications, obviously you have to have internet access. If you have trouble with your internet access, I understand how some of you live in group settings. Maybe there's a lot of people in the apartment who are accessing the internet at the same time. There may be places on campus you can go to get internet access. I know that in semesters past, the university put out a list of those places where you can go and, I think they called them like Zoom rooms or something. I forget how that worked, but we'll double check whether that's something that the university and or Tyler is still providing. COVID-19, okay. Obviously this has thrown us all a monkey wrench here for the beginning of our semester, but we're gonna follow the Temple motto, which is perseverance conquers, and we're going to just be as flexible as we can. As far as I know, we are scheduled to go in person on January 24th, which means I'll get to meet you all in the CAD lab on that day in class at noon. Fingers crossed. Obviously, we have to keep an eye on the university updates, whether that changes, and we'll see how that goes. All right. I'll stop for a second. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself. Nope, everybody's following along pretty well. Okay. Attendance, we have 16 weeks of classes. This is like really important that you guys are here. I don't record every single thing, especially, okay, here we go. We've got one of our folks from the other who might have missed things. But I don't record every session or every single thing. But what I do record, we do make available. But don't count on, oh, well, I'm not going to go in today. It's a Zoom class. They all get recorded. I don't record everything that's in Zoom. And some of that is you interacting with people in the breakout rooms. And obviously that's not recorded, and that's not something that you can follow along later. So it really is important to be in class. So attendance is taken at the beginning of every class. And I also check again at the end before everybody logs out. Late means you're not there when I take attendance and you show up later. Absent means you weren't around. Please stay in contact with me. If you have a problem, an internet problem, a personal problem, you're trying to get to class, got a flat tire, car accident, jam on the Schuylkill Expressway. I understand this. We all run through this, and just keep me informed. That's all I ask. Because if I know you're not coming, and that'll be helpful. Then I'll know to record. Then I'll know to make notes. Do talk to your fellow students so that you can catch up on things that you miss. Late assignments. So assignments, it's like super important that you get them in on time. I understand if people are running late. As I said earlier, this can be a steep learning curve for some people. You're working on three-dimensional objects in a virtual space in your computer. It can be tricky to wrap your head around a lot of these concepts the first time you're going through them. So if you're having issues, please just keep me posted. Like, don't wait until the day of the due date to tell me, hey, I've been 2 weeks behind. I just didn't get a chance to get my materials to bring them in to get laser cut. At that point, don't. Please tell me when your materials didn't come when expected. Please keep me posted if you're running behind. we can work with that. We can find ways of having you being able to present something, even if it's just a rendering or a virtual of your file. So always communicate with me if you suspect you're getting behind. Incomplete grades. That's not something that happens very often. Sometimes it does. Sometimes there are extenuating circumstances, and we work with incomplete grades. Again, this should be pretty rare, but if it's you, please communicate. Plagiarism. Okay, if I suspect at all that you guys are sharing work or sharing files, the hammer will come down. This is, you don't want to jeopardize your entire academic career over a file, especially when most of these lessons that we're all doing at the same time, they're worth 5 points. Just don't. Now, if you guys want to help each other, I fully encourage that. I think it's great. If you say, hey, you're in breakout rooms or you're in the classroom and you say, when I did that, I had trouble with this 3-point orient doesn't work the way that this is how it worked for me. You're welcome to do that. Lean over, explain to your neighbor how you finished that exercise, but don't touch their mouse. Okay? I feel like when we explain things to one another, we begin to understand it better in our own mind. I will be doing recordings. I'll be recording demos. Everything that I record, I will be putting in a Canvas page that has a listing of links to those lessons. What I do is I save out the Zoom videos and I upload them to my YouTube channel. I have a playlist for this class, and you'll be able to go to them and review the demos that I do. If you want to record, especially our one-on-ones, if we're meeting one-on-one Zooming, you're welcome to say, hey, would it be okay if I record this because I want to be able to come back when I'm doing my project and I'm not during class. You want to be able to review it. You are welcome to review or to record our one-on-ones. If you want to record something for yourself that's a demo, please just make an announcement and say, hey, I'm going to record this. Is that okay? And this way you'll have your own recording besides mine. It might be easier for you to get to. You're welcome to do that. Just please announce it so that because I announce when I'm recording. If you're going to record this, it's kind of important. Just put it in the chat. Hey, I'm going to record this. Just so your fellow students know. Academic rights and responsibilities, that affects both of us. There's a policy here about that has to do with freedom of speech, freedom of academic thought and speech. Technology usage. Okay, don't use your technology for things that are no-nos. I'll let you read through there. I think we all have heard about some of that stuff. And if you haven't, let me know or just take a read at the link. Last day to drop ad is our first in-person day. If you're not sure if you want to stay in this class, set up a time with me and talk. I mean, maybe this class isn't for you. Maybe it just doesn't fit in your schedule. Maybe it's too much work for you. Whichever, that's fine. We can talk or not. If you need to withdraw, after these dates, obviously medical withdrawals are a different thing. Health and safety. Okay, so when you are in the MJCC studios, we have a lot of health and safety policies that you'll have to follow. I'll give you a quick rundown of those when we get in person. I'd like to take a quick walk through the studio, and maybe we'll have Brad Lunsford, who is our studio tech in Metals Jewelry CAD CAM. And he may actually help with explaining some of our safety policies. But in the meantime, there's also our COVID-19 policies, which is you must wear a mask. Do not come to class if you feel unwell. Get a test. Let's stay communicating. Maintain physical distancing, 6 feet away from one another if you can. Wash your hands regularly. We use soap and water. We also have hand sanitizer. We have wipes. We have sanitizing wipes available in the studio as well. And we'll talk a little more about that, but it's always a good habit. And to be honest, before COVID-19, we were doing this in the CAD lab anyway, especially in the winter, because you can just see flus and viruses like racing through classes at times. But when you're sitting down and using a keyboard and a mouse and a desk, and you're intimately touching something that somebody else has intimately touched, like just a couple hours before you, just wipe it down before you get to it. It's just good habits. Class conduct, yeah, here we go. We're back to the COVID-19 stuff. Face coverings, physical distance, washing hands, monitoring our health. Also, let's be respectful of one another. Accepting, please try to show up on time, be respectful of everybody's time. Let's communicate during critiques. It's really frustrating to have worked so hard on a piece and you talk about it and you put your heart out on the table and nobody says anything. Say you like it, say why, please. And as I mentioned, that is part of your participation grade. If you say nothing during critiques, I do make note of that. Our class is not, we don't have 200 people in our class. We need everybody to really participate in order for us all to get the most out of it. Yeah, so, be nice to one another. Don't, watch your language. When you're typing things online, it's a good idea not to use capital letters. It sounds like you're shouting. It looks like you're shouting. It doesn't sound like it, but you guys get it. Same with online etiquette. We don't have a lot of, super deep discussions maybe in a class like this, but it's still important to not belittle other people's opinions. Communication, obviously, please check your email. If you don't have email on your phone, please log into Temple once a day and check your email, but I suggest you have your Temple email on your phone if that's at all possible. The same with Canvas. The Canvas, anything that I send through Canvas, most of the time that's what I use because it's easier for me to pull up everybody and send it out to all the students through Canvas. And so you want to keep an eye on Canvas. And as I said, there is a Canvas app. You can put that on your phone. It's a good thing. So we've all been advised to prepare to go online if we need to in the case of a public health emergency. The first 2 weeks of class are an example of that. If we have to do more, we'll have to pivot a little bit as far as our demos, maybe our projects. I may have to alter some things around the projects, what's required of you, what we can do for you. For instance, I really love to have everybody do their own laser cutting, supervised by me, helping you with the laser cutter and your file. And we load your material in, we measure it, but if we're not meeting in person, we can't do that. So that would have to change, something like that. You'd leave me your materials. If you're using something other than the clear materials, you'd, submit your file to a place where I can get it, and then I'll come in and cut, or we have a grad student come in and cut, and then your pieces are available for you to pick up somewhere. It's not as good. It's not as good. I really like to see people run the laser cutter. Okay, let's see. Anne says in the first 2 weeks, if we went online, do we have access to the computers in the MJCC lab, or do they prefer we stay off campus? That's a great question. And I'm not sure I know the direct answer to it. My thought would be is that, yes, you can come in. But it is important, and I'll talk about this on Canvas, that you reserve a spot. As I understand it, the studios are available for people to come in and work. And because I don't have remote access set up yet, you might even, need to. I'll have that email to those guys by the end of today. And and it only takes them like a couple minutes to put that in usually. So you guys should all have remote access by Wednesday. And you probably still have it from the last course you took. But yeah, I'll show you the tools that you can use to go and go in and sign up for a seat, because of the distancing and the limitations on the number of people permitted in the studio at any one time. It will be important that you reserve a seat before you come in. I'll go over where that is in the Canvas, in our Canvas course. Great question, though. Really good question. All right. Where were we? Okay. Communication, COVID-19. We talked about that. Cancellation, inclement weather. I think we're all familiar with that. Just go to Temple's website or sign up for the email or text message alerts. They'll send you something. Those are important to have too, in case there is any sort of issue on or around campus that the Temple Police or the Philadelphia Police want you to stay away from. These things do happen, and it is important that you're informed of them and don't walk into a situation that you don't want to be in. So I would recommend, if you're signed up for the alerts, they'll come right to your phone. Respect and equity. We want to create an anti-discriminatory environment where everyone feels safe and welcome. And diversity, equity, inclusion are important. They're important values that we have as a school. And as an individual, those are important values to me. So let's respect one another's opinions, viewpoints as a community. I love these last things: mutual respect, tolerance of difference, kindness, and compassion. They're very important. Names and pronouns. Okay, so I get your names and pronoun. Actually, I get your names from the list, and I think that yes. And actually, recently there is a spot where you can put in pronouns. I'm gonna double check on how that is. I think that just started like last semester or the semester before. So, and if for some reason I get your pronouns wrong, please correct me. I appreciate if you would correct me. You don't have to do it publicly if you're not comfortable with that, but please correct me. My personal pronouns are she, her. I try to share them with Zoom whenever we're on. But if you want to be called by a different name than what's in there, please let me know. I'm happy to accommodate whatever you need. Basic needs. This is another thing. We have a care team at Temple University that can help with groceries, people who have food insecurity, home insecurity. I understand that, for some people it's very difficult to attend college, and the fact that, you're here, or if you're struggling, there's no reason that you have to struggle without some help. So by all means, contact me or contact the care team. Also, Dave Logan is he's the head of advising, but he also is a member of the care team, and he's happy to refer you to any campus services that you might need. And you're welcome to talk with me too, and I'm happy to introduce you to him. So student support services, we've got, a lot of different things. I talked about the Writing Center a little bit earlier. You probably don't need that. But we have a lot of things on campus. One thing that I do want to point out here at the bottom is the disability resources. If you have a disability that is affecting your performance in this class or any class, you should be talking to DRS. The disability resource folks can help you prepare a letter to go to any of your instructors whose class you feel your disability will affect your performance, or you would require an accommodation in order to be successful. this is a great thing for people with ADHD or anxiety or any sort of disability. And I recommend that if you are somebody who has one of those things, get in touch with Disability Resources. You do not have to send a letter to every single class instructor saying what's going on with you. Only in the ones that you think that you're going to have an issue with. And let me tell you, it sometimes takes them months to get you into their system. So if you're someone who needs this, and I can tell you, there's no shame in any of this. It is really important to help you succeed, because we're happy. I personally, as an instructor, am very happy to know what issues you have going on, and I can work with you around any of them. So Disability Resources, get with them if you need them. You don't have to use it all the time, but if it's there, then that's an option for you. And it really helps free me up to be more accommodating than perhaps I can't be with policies of departments in the university. For instance, attendance or deadlines. There are things that can be worked around if I need to create a DRS accommodation for you. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that, but I do want you all to know that it is important. If you need it, you want to have that option. Food insecurity, financial struggles. We've got the Cherry Pantry. There's a student aid program. And then the Office of Student Affairs also helps with different issues that students may have. I want to tell you, I went to Temple like a million years ago in the 80s, and none of this stuff was ever talked about. So, feel glad, folks. This is good. We want everybody to succeed, and we're happy to offer what we can. All right. That's a lot of information right there, and we haven't even gotten to the schedule. It's 1 o'clock already. Do we have any other questions? Okay, let's just take like a 2-minute breather. I'd like, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'd like you to just like stand up, walk around, move your arms, stretch. I'm going to stop recording for a second. Where's that recording? I'm going to continue recording now after our little stretch break. I hope everybody was able to get over, pet your cat if you have one. I have my little cat over here. She's, sorry, I just disturbed her. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get back into, alrighty, not there. Where's my, oh, here we go. Okay. CAD 1. Okay. Home. To move this out of the way. Okay. So I went through the beginning of this earlier. We're going to go back to the syllabus real quick. Then I'm going to go through the reference information. And we'll see about if we have time left to talk about project 1. If not, we'll get to that on Wednesday. Okay, back to the syllabus. Let's head down to the schedule, and we'll go through this pretty quick. And you guys are always welcome to ask questions of the syllabus. There may be times that I have to adjust deadlines, you never know, inclement weather. We may have to, lose some class time, which may mean a little restructuring. So here we are. We're first day of classes. We're online. Oh, geez, yes, we've got the 984 scheduled for this. And yeah, Canvas gave me a separate one. Yeah, I'm going to have to adjust all of these Zoom links. Might I suggest that you guys go into the Zoom menu on Canvas to log into the class rather than use the links in the syllabus until I get that straightened out. So here we are. We're talking about the syllabus, and I misspelled that. We're going to talk about remote access, the server, and Canvas course materials. And it looks like I'm going to talk on Wednesday about project 1. Actually, it looks like I'm talking about that next Wednesday, but we'll see where we are. I'd like for you guys to get a feel for that as soon as possible, but as I mentioned, Rhino can be a little bit of a steep learning curve. So we're off next Monday for Martin Luther King Day. There are no classes, and then we'll be online next Wednesday. And then we meet in person on the 24th, as I mentioned. By that time, we should be moving along with the demos and the exercises. I'm going to be demonstrating a number of different things over the next few class sessions. I'll be going in and talking about, if I can today, I'm going to demonstrate how to log on using remote access. We'll see where we are as far as that is, and then we'll start on to learning about the Rhino software. Let's see where we are. We're at 113 now. So as I said, we're going to be back in person, one-on-one. I'm going to be demonstrating some of the exercises. I'll go through anything tricky that people seem to have trouble with. I'm happy to work you through it. I'm going to show you guys the laser cutter in person on the 31st. We'll be looking at the assignments every week. You can see assignment week 1. What does that mean? I have assignment week 1. If you go to the assignments in Canvas, you'll see that week 1, you'll start with reading this. That's a link to McNeil's website. Here's the introduction to Rhino software. I'm going to go through this stuff with you too. But for those of you, I mean, everybody learns differently, right? Some of us need to see somebody doing it. Some of you are okay if you read it and do it. Some of you need somebody to do it and then you do it with somebody. We have a lot of different ways of learning, and I'm offering a lot of different ways to experience this software. Let's get back to Canvas. So there's a user's guide as well, and these tutorials are also linked within the Rhino software. I'll show you that in a few minutes. Back to the syllabus. Where are we at? Oh goodness, I really need to put a bookmark where the schedule starts. So we have assignments every week up until, let's see, our assignments end week 12. Yes, which is the end of March. Okay, so then we have all of April to finish different projects, rendering, critiques, other demos. Our final group critique is on Wednesday. Now, we normally meet online on Wednesdays, but I'd like to have that final critique in person. We'll talk about that more as we get there. Otherwise, maybe I could do the one-on-ones first, and then we'll have our final group critique. But I like to do the one-on-ones last, because usually I'm handing you back your work that you gave me during the group critique. But we also have something else notable is spring break happens between the 28th of February and the 2nd of March. 2nd of March? No, it happens between the 6th of March. The 28th and the 2nd are the 2 days that it affects us specifically. So through the course of the semester, we'll have project 1, the laser cut piece, as I said, the layers project. Then in the meantime, I will introduce the cast ring before project 1 is done. Then from there, we'll start with how to model a ring. We'll work on cleaning up our files, submitting them for 3D printing. We'll have to clean them after they're printed, get them ready for the investment casting. I'll show you the investment process. We will invest our prints individually. And then if you want to cast them yourself, as long as we're allowed to, as long as I'm allowed to cast back there with you, and that will all depend on COVID protocols. If we can do that, then that's a great experience, because you get to stand back there with the giant torch and you melt the metal that gets injected into your flask. And it's honestly, you know, like Christmas every day when we're casting. I love casting. It's one of the best processes in jewelry making. Then we're going to work on rendering. The end of the semester is a lot of rendering. It's a lot of modeling independent things. We'll also be working on our cast rings. You'll be cutting off sprues. You'll be filing. We'll clean them up and polish them like that. I'll be giving other demonstrations. We're going to have a group critique on our rings on the 11th of April. And that'll be strictly just on the rings. And then we're going to continue with Keyshot, which is the software that we use for rendering. That is in our computers. Then we'll get ready for those final critique. Our final critique is a combination of our 2 projects and the renderings. So it's really sort of a greatest hits of the semester, rather than a necessary, you know, big final project. It's more like, let's clean up everything we've done this semester and look at it all in context with one another. And then we're done on the 25th of April. Spring semester runs pretty fast. If you feel like you're getting behind, as I said earlier, please, please, please get in touch with me. All right, that's the schedule in a nutshell. I went through it pretty quickly. I try to have the habit of, at the beginning of every class, we're going to look at the syllabus. We're going to say, hey, this is where we are today. This is what we've got scheduled. This is what we're doing next week. You know, we have 2 weeks until we need your file in, or stuff like that. You know, or this week's assignment is kind of tricky because we're doing, you know, network surface or whatever. I mean, there may be things that, you know, we'll need to demonstrate, or there may be people who are running ahead and say, hey, I got to the duck exercise and I can't figure it out. What gives? And maybe we'll just stop and do a demo. If you ever have any questions, you're probably not the only one to have that question. So feel free to just, you know, hop in and ask me questions. We can always change around where we are in the syllabus if we need to. Everything in the syllabus is always subject to change. All right. Any questions? You guys are so quiet. Okay, and that's all right. It's tough to pull in things over Zoom. All right, so let's go to home on the Canvas, and let's take a quick look through the reference information module. So this is the stuff that I have in this module. Most demos I record using Zoom. And what I do here is in the Zoom recording index, I update this page every time I record a demo. I usually record them to the cloud. I'll download them. If they need any editing, I'll edit them. And then I upload them to my YouTube. And by the end of the semester, this is going to be a long page. It'll have a link, and you can go back. I usually label them by date and by subject. So for instance, I may have, you know, CAD 1, January 31st, you know, chair demo, something like that, or remote access demo. So there's our Zoom recordings index, studio access scheduling. So this is what we asked about. If you need to go in and work, these are, this is part of the system that Tyler has put together in order to keep track of people working in the studio. So if you wanted to use 220B, that's our computer our CAD lab. Here's where we are right now. If you wanted to book, you can see that there are 5 seats available right now in that room. Let's say you wanted seat 4 and you wanted to use it at, let's see, no future availability. What in the world? Go to date. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to have to find out what's going on here. Has anybody used this system recently? No. Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to ask them about that. Let me add that to my list here. Studio access tool. I'm going to send an email to Doug. Okay. Let's go back. Alrighty, let's go back here. So I'm going to have to find out more about that. This is a presentation that we have about rendering. I have this up for your reference. This was from last semester. So this is some stuff you can look at later. This is just put in here on the reference. This is also from last semester. Oh, and so is this. My goodness. I thought that when I moved, usually what I do is I migrate over how I have things work. I didn't think that it kept everything like that. All right. So we will definitely go through there. Actually, it went into this one. I see. So we went right through that module into the next 2 modules, which are not published. So, okay. That's where we're at there. The other thing that I do want to show you is remote access. This is real important. So, as I was saying, because we're not meeting in person the first 2 weeks of classes, and because this is a hybrid class and half of our meetings are virtual, you are going to need to be able to access our Temple computers remotely. Let me, I do have it up here, at least I did. Where is my remote access? Here we go. All right, so right here in this window, can you guys all see this gray Windows desktop? Okay, right now I'm logged into a computer in the 220B CAD lab in Metals Jewelry CAD CAM. That's the 220 suite. On the 2nd floor, if there's anybody here who hasn't been in there, that's where it's located. You go up the steps, follow it around past administration and advising, and you see all these nifty silhouettes all around the door. It's pretty obvious where the metals department is. But this is as if I'm sitting right at, I think I'm on computer 18. There are 18, I think, computers in the CAD lab, and you can log into almost any of them. I'm going to log out of this right now, and I'm going to show you how I log in, which is going to be very similar to what you're going to do. So as I'm signing out, all right. So when we use this, I go to this page for you. And these are instructions to go in. So the first thing that they tell you to do is go to a remote lab list. If we go back to the Canvas page here, you want to go here and you're locating. This is a list of the computers in 220B. And 220B and TSA is Tyler School of Art. That tells you that these are Tyler School of Art computers. 220B is in Tyler School of Art, and you can see here that we have different computers, 1 through 18. And these are the ones that they say are available. I was just on 18. I'm going to log in there again. So the only reason, now clicking on this isn't going to get me anywhere. All that I'm doing with this list is just checking it to see what computers are available. Now, I'm going to go back to those instructions, which are, I have so many windows open. Here are the instructions. Okay, if you're using a Mac, you have to download this software application from Microsoft. It's called Microsoft Remote Desktop, and it's free, but you do need it. If you don't have a Mac, you don't need it. So just FYI. So I have that already downloaded, but if you need it, you can, totally, let me open that link in a new tab. You can see it'll take you to the App Store. Here it is. This is what the icon looks like. It's got these two little arrows that face one another. Oh, geez. And here comes the rest of the Apple stuff, which I don't need. App Store, go away. Okay, the App Store is done. But that you will need that if you have a Mac. All right, so the next thing that you do is you go to this site here, remotelabs.temple.edu. All right, I actually have this bookmarked, and you can bookmark it too. Now, if this is your first time, that isn't what I wanted to do. If this is the first time that you're here, you're not going to have anything here. What happens, the first thing that you need to do is you need to add a computer. So the name of your computer is where you have to go back to that list. Remember that list I showed you with, yeah, got that. Here it is here. There it is. That makes it. Okay, here's the list. So if this is the name of your computer, TSA-220B- whatever. So we're going to go to that spot. We're going to go add TSA-220B-, let's go with, do I have 12 here? I don't see it, 12. And that's the name, that's the address, copy. And here it might say computer. Now description, you can put whatever, computer 12. Super, super important. Click that RDP link. That way it will give you an RDP link. You need that. When you hit add, that will show up in your little list here. Did it show up here? I might have already had that. So, oh, here's 12 here. Okay, so I already had 12. Oh, geez. Okay, it keeps downloading. I'm going to go remove. And here in remove, I can take some of these out. I'm going to remove a bunch of these because I don't need them all. Okay, I'm going to refresh this page. And now all I have is 18. So once you have this list of your personal links to computers in the CAD lab, then you can double click on this, or I think you just click once, not double. And it will download a link. It'll go to your downloads. Double click on it if you're a Mac user. It'll do this with Windows too, but you won't need to have that extra program. You will still have to look in your downloads. So here you'll need to put in your username for Temple and your password. This isn't just your AccessNet ID. You need to put in your full email address, including the @temple.edu. So here we go. @temple.edu. Then you need to put in your AccessNet. Oh crap! Wait a minute. Okay. Hopefully that was right. Okay. Now what it says here is that it can't verify it with a certificate. Don't worry about it. Just hit continue. It says connecting. And now I get this. It looks like I'm sitting in front of computer 18 in the 220B CAD lab in MJCC. And I am literally connected to that computer. if I download something to the downloads when I'm there in person and I log onto it here, it'll still give me access to those downloads. It'll still give me access to a number of things. And this is part of what I need to show you. All right, here we go. Everybody can see this desktop? Okay. So this is what it looks like if you're sitting at one of our CAD lab computers in 220B, the MJCC CAD lab. That little flash there was a script that runs to connect us to the server. This is why the MJCC server is an important thing, and this is why it's important that you log into the remote desktop. There's a number of things that happen on that server that are important, especially if we're remote. There's this interesting little icon on the desktop. It says Metals. This is a link to the Metals server. Here you can see a whole bunch of folders. Have a lot to do with our all the different classes we have here in Metals. But we're most interested in CAD 1. And you'll see here we have other CAD 1 folders. And here we should have Spring. Bring it up that way. Spring 2022 Bauer. There are 2 sections of CAD 1 this semester. The other is taught by Casey Newberg, and I'm teaching this one. So this is where you're going to create a personal folder for yourself. You're going to just go in, you know, new folder, etc. Name it with your name. And that's where I want you to keep your lessons, where you keep files. And this way, if you have it on the server, you can get to that server from any of the MJCC computers, any of the computers in the Metals Jewelry CAD/CAM studios. That includes the computers in the outside of the CAD lab. We have computers all over the studio. There are computers in the in our seminar room. There are computers out in the main studio along the hallway. There's a computer in the machine room as well that we use for our laser cutters. You can get to the server from any of those places. And that's important because if you keep your work on the server, you'll be able to get to it anywhere in the studio, and you'll be able to remote desktop into any of the Metals computers and get to the server. The server is important because here's where we're going to go out to the server. Metals. 2D cutting, depending on if we aren't going to be able to do our laser cutting ourselves, we will need to do it on in a folder here. You'll submit your files there. You'll let me know where your materials are, and we'll get your work cut for you. Then, let's see. Then when we do the 3D printing, we have the same thing. We have to put, we have to submit things in the castable wax folder, and you will put your files here. We'll talk more about that and what kind of files, and there's some forms that have to happen at the same time too. That's one thing. But all right, I'm going to minimize this for a minute and double check where we are with our canvas. All right, so that's our remote. And if you need help, we've got Tyler Help at temple.edu. Copy me on any correspondence you send to them, so this way I know what the issue is. It may be something that I can help you with, or or we may need to have those guys involved, and perhaps having me in on the correspondence, I may be able to explain as well to them what issues we may be having. So when you go to that list, this is something that's important to see. When you go to this list and down the bottom it says in use, don't trust that. That doesn't mean you can't use these computers. Try anyway. A lot of times if somebody doesn't log out all the way, it'll still show as in use. If there's somebody in person using it, sometimes you can still log in while they're on. Our computers are pretty powerful. We just had them replaced last semester, and they're, they've got plenty of RAM to operate a couple different users at a time if we're all logged in remotely. So this is just the list of computers. Don't go by whether or not they say they're in use or not. And once you have your little list here, you'll have favorites that you'll want to go to all the time. And maybe it's the one that you sit at when we come into class in person. So yeah. Any questions about remote access? This is important. And once I get that email off to those guys and they add you in, I will want to check into, and here's where I'm going to go back to, here I am. Make this big again. I'm going to go in here and check and see if everybody put in their personal folder. Okay, please take a photo of it, and I'll go in and check too. But if you take a photo of it and submit it on Canvas, that way I can just like check mark. Okay, this got done. All right. Okay, all right, no questions about that? You may have questions once you actually stop and go through it to do it, and that's okay. It's hard to have questions when you're just watching somebody else do it. All right, well, what I want to start with then is I think that I could just get you going on Rhino. Let me real quick check again back on our Canvas. Let's go back to the syllabus and make sure that we covered everything else, and I can start to actually show you Rhino. Remote access, the server, and we went through the Canvas course materials. Okay, woohoo, let's get to the software we're going to learn, because it's the best. I am a big Rhino fan, you'll find. So when you get onto these computers, you'll see Rhino 7 on the desktop. That's what we're using. I'm going to double click on it. And all right, there we go. We'll see it starting. And the first time you open Rhino on any of these computers, it'll give you that little message like, hey, I'm updating the toolbars and the preferences. This is why you'll get used to using it on, a couple of computers. Okay, and now Rhino sends usage statistics to McNeil. As I mentioned, McNeil is the company that makes Rhino. And I am going to expand this out. So welcome to Rhino. We've got a lot on this, on our desktop here, right? This interface has many, many aspects to it. So I'm going to quickly go through from top to bottom and show you a couple of things. But the first thing is we have a menu up top here, right? File, edit, curve, sub-D, solid, mesh, dimension, transform, tools, analyze. This will all become more clear to you as you use them. A lot of the functions that you will find in these menus are also available as little icons. What we have here is actually the history panel. When we do things in the command line, they'll show up here. For instance, I'm going to minimize this again, but you can still see a little history. Let's say I go and make a just a rectangle curve. You can see what it did. It kept track of that rectangle. And this is my history of what I just did. So let's say now I, type in text because I want to create a text object. It brings this up. And let's say I just want to type in let's type that in, Rhino rocks. What do I want? The style is default, that's okay. Mask, what is this text gonna be? Yeah, let's just hit okay, and it's just gonna put some text in here. What is that? It's just a text object. All right. Yeah. All right, and then there's also text here where I can create curves, surfaces, solids. Let's make a solid one, and let's make this all right, we're going to hit okay. Now it's giving me the option of putting this down. Let's put it down in the top viewport. And here we go. Let's show this as ghosted. Hello world. Oh. And I'm going to take this, bring up that sort of thing. But so what I'm demonstrating here is that everything I just did is up here in this command history. This is our command line. This is a place where we can enter commands and tell Rhino what we want it to do. You can use menus to bring up commands. You can bring up commands, typing them here. You can bring up commands by using these little icons. Rhino has broken a number of the subject matter type of tools into these tabs along the top. Curve tools, we have a bunch of icons for those here. Surface tools, we'll be working with surfaces, solids, sub D. Sub D is a type of modeling that involves subdivision surfacing. Have any of you ever used a program called Blender? Anybody familiar with that one? That's a sub D type of modeling. So, all right, so there's our command line. Here's our tabs along here. You can rearrange the order of these tabs if you want. You can move display on the other side of view, viewport layouts. Next, we have some of these icons that will relate to the different tabs that are up. When you bring up the curve tools, then all of these that show up here are curve tools. These are some favorites along here. You do not, this, you can move this around. You can rearrange this whole interface. For those of you familiar with like the Adobe Creative Cloud kind of things, you know how you can rearrange your workspace. You can do that here. These are different commands here. You do get tooltips if you hover your mouse over a command. Say I go to seaplanes. There we go. Well, this will set me a seaplane. A seaplane is a construction plane. But let's start simple and just keep the standard tool tab up. We have here new file, open, save, etc. These are all pretty familiar to any computer user. Then we have our 4 viewports. And so we're working in 3-dimensional space here. I'm going to delete all this. All right, I'm going to create a surface here. We'll just put a plane, regular 3 points plane. And I'm going to put this plane here. Because I'm working in the top viewport, you can see it laying in the X and Y. All right, each of these in the viewport has axes down the bottom here to show what you're viewing. In the right viewport, I'm going to do that same thing again. I'm going to put another 3-point rectangle. If I hold down the shift key, it'll keep things perpendicular. All right, so you see where I put that? And now how it's showing up in our 3-dimensional perspective viewport. Now, if I work in the front viewport here, and I do the same thing, hold down shift to keep it straight, and I'm going to go down. Okay. So now you can see the top viewport down here in the lower corner, Y and X. Okay. And in the lower left corner of the perspective viewport, you can see how we've got all 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. 3 dimensions, 3D. That's why they call this 3D modeling, because we are going to be modeling things that are 3-dimensional. Okay. And in the front, we have the ZX. You can see here ZX. We can take that guy and we're going to make it a slightly different. Oh my goodness, I have to move this. Where's my gumball? We're going to make this slightly different size so we can see it when we're moving around in our perspective viewport. So these are our 3 viewports there, or our 4 viewports. We can see here a different view of all the same things, right? We're going to take this guy and we're going to make it this way. So this way we can see how one is kind of thick, one goes vertically, one goes horizontally. All right. So these are our viewports. If we want to like really zoom in and work, we're going to be working mostly in the top viewport for our first project, which is cutting out things out of 2-dimensional material. We'll talk about that more at that time, but if you double click on any of these viewport title bars, you will get just that viewport. Double click again, and it'll bring you back up to your 4 viewports. They call this orthographic. Over here, this is a really important part over here. Because I brought up the plane command, I now have this showing up. This is the help, our help panel. And it interacts with whatever it is that you're trying to do over here in terms of your commands. So if I went over here and I have box, if I choose box, the help, our help tab over here is updating with a small video showing you how you can make a box using this command. And here we go, I made a box. But this is super valuable. I cannot stress enough how much it may help you to keep the help tab open. Over here, we have our properties panel. This gives you the properties here of the viewport that is active right now. See how perspective was active? I go over here, top is active, front is active, and it gives you information about that. But if you choose an object, for instance, the box we just made, now this properties panel will give me the properties of that object. It's a closed extrusion. We'll talk more about what that means later. Another really important panel here is the layers panel. Right now we have everything on one layer. It's the default layer. We can add another layer. Underneath, we could change the color of that layer. Let's make it gold, let's say. And we can change things to that layer, change object layer. So now that's gold. We can make that the active layer so that anything new that comes up, let's say we go into sub D and bring up a sphere. Okay, notice how that is gold. We can add a sublayer. We could change the color of that too. Let's make that aquamarine. Oh, it didn't work. Let's go here. Okay. Now, if I make that the active layer, then the next thing that I create there will end up being that color. There's the cylinder. I'm going to hide the gumball right now. Let's see, it's up there. If you right click, it will bring up your last command. That's a really pretty powerful thing to remember. We'll go over that again. I'm just giving you a quick overview of the interface. Okay, so this is for rendering. We're actually not going to use any rendering. So you can actually close that panel. This is for materials, also for rendering. And this is a way of getting to content for the rendering. Also not important, but that help panel, if you can leave that up, that's a super helpful thing, especially when you're just beginning. And, you know, I've been using Rhino now for, gosh, I think 10 years. And I still pull up the help every once in a while. It's a really super cool thing because Rhino is constantly changing and it's used for so many different industries that there are commands and functions in Rhino that you can't even dream of and that I can't even dream of. So, so we've got these panels. Now let's look at the bottom of the screen here. This is this whole series of checkboxes along here are our O snaps. If I hit the O snap here, it will make them disappear. Right now, none of them are checked. So what these are modeling aids that help us very precisely put what we want where we want it, and or have things orient and line up the way we want them. For instance, let's say I wanted to put this cylinder on top of the other cylinder. And as you can see, they are different diameters. But if I wanted this one to be perfectly centered in that one, what I would want to do is put on my center O snap. I have the O snap on, it's checked. And I will take this and I will type in the move command. And it says the point to move from. And here I will zoom in. And by moving my cursor around the edge, you see that little star in the middle? Now I have that. And now I can grab that and I'm going to line it up with the center of the other cylinder, but on top. Okay, that would have taken me for never. I could never have done that precisely on my own, just moving the thing around. O snaps are, we're going to learn more about those later. Super helpful for having things line up at the ends, the points, the middle. There's other tools along here. You can see here we have the coordinates of where your cursor is. Because I'm working in the top viewport, my cursor is always going to be on the 0 of the Z axis. And if I move here over into the front viewport, okay, it should have changed the other one to 0. Let's draw a line here in the front viewport. Okay. Also, one of the other things that you see down here is you can see that this file I'm working in millimeters. You don't have to work in millimeters. You can work in inches. You can work in yards. You can work in miles. But we're generally going to be working in inches or millimeters. Right here, it's telling me what the active layer is. So anything new is going to wind up on that layer. Over here, there are some more modeling aids like grid snap. If I turn on grid snap, you can see it turns slightly blue. Now, if I draw anything in my viewports, it's going to automatically snap to one of those grid intersections. This is helpful sometimes, other times it is not helpful at all. Take that off. Ortho means that your cursor is going to want to lock to 90 degrees. So you see how I'm moving? It's not going anywhere except for the 90, 180, 270, and 360. You know, it's like the cardinal points on a compass. I go here. So I made a circle, and you can see that that circle is also aquamarine because it's this layer. By the way, you can rename layers. We could say this is the gold layer. Okay, we could say here that this is our reference lines. We'll have all different kinds of reasons to name things in our layers, and you can have, I can tell you, dozens of layers. It makes your file pretty big, but so there's that. Planar is a way of modeling that if you start something in one plane, let's make that our active. Let's say we're going to make an arc over here. We'll start it here, but we go over here to finish it because we started it in that other, it'll still work on that same plane. That may not be obvious what it is, but O-snaps we talked about. Smart Track is another modeling aid kind of thing. We'll go through that. There's a whole lesson on Smart Track. Gumball. Gumball is an interesting thing that you can use when you have something selected. This tool shows up, and it's actually a whole bunch of tools all at once. Oh, by the way, one of the things that you can do is you can hide a layer using these little light bulbs. Okay, you cannot hide the current layer, but let's say we make the gold the current layer, and we're going to hide the other one, our reference lines layer and our aquamarine layer. So if I select this, I can figure out what it is I just selected by there we go. Going to the properties panel and looking at what it is. It's a closed sub D, it's on the gold layer. And this gumball tool is super helpful. We can use it to rotate things. We can grab one of these arcs and with the mouse and rotate a little bit. We can scale things using these little squares on the end. All right, and we can move them just using the little arrow. Okay, and we can use the gumball in any of the viewports. It's helpful to constrain your movement to one single axis. If you're using the gumball with a curve, for instance, I just did a curve of a rectangle, right? I click on that, and now my gumball is there. Now I have these little dots also on there. If I grab that dot, I can actually extrude this into a, and I believe that's just a surface. That's not a solid. Let me double click here and show you. All right, yeah, that's just a surface. It's an open surface. But there we go. That's what we have here. Record history is another super powerful tool that we will talk about. Let's delete this, and I'll give you a quick example of what record history does. So let's, I'm going to delete this guy too. I selected it and then hit the delete key. So I'm going to do another rectangle right here in the top viewport. Oh, no, wait, let's delete that. Let's turn on record history, then do this rectangle. See, record history was still on. I'm going to click it on again. Now I'm going to take it. We're going to use that gumball and move this up, right? Now, because record history is on, if I just click the curve and I change the shape of the curve, look, it updated that extrusion. And if you don't think that that's going to be super useful in the future, I really got a lot of things to tell you, but that will be really helpful. So that's what record history does in a nutshell. You can see here things like CPU usage. That's kind of important. Because if your files get really, really big, your computer will get really, really slow. I will talk about things you can do to keep your files from getting super big, but I doubt any of you are going to get there before we get to the ring project. So that's just a quick and dirty intro to the interface in Rhino. But more importantly, let's go back up to these menus. And so you have these assignments that are going to be due every week for the first 10, 11 weeks. You go to the help menu where it says Learn Rhino. It says tutorials and samples. Go there and you'll get up this little menu or this little panel. Take this, you can dock it down here with your other panels. Right there. Okay. And it will always be there, provided you're on the same computer. Level 1 training manual. You can download this as a PDF guide. You can, you can also just go, if you go back here to the Learn Rhino, you could go to the tutorials on the web. It'll open up your web browser and it'll take you right to McNeil's rhino3d.com learning setup. We're working mainly with the level 1 manual, a little teeny bit in the level 2 manual, and in the user's guide. And you're welcome to look through any of these videos over here on McNeil's website. We use Rhino for Windows. There is Rhino for Mac. Some people prefer it. Our instructions are mainly set up for Rhino for Windows. There are a few things that Rhino for Mac cannot do that we have on Rhino for Windows. It's not a lot. If you really, really want to have Rhino for Mac, then go ahead and do it. I suggest you try it out if you can, but let's just get through the first couple weeks and see what you think. So here's a place, like I said, here's the user guide. If I click on that, it'll bring up a link right to the docs.mcneil.com. Here's an introduction to the user guide. This is basically some of the things that I just took you through. You're going to want to go through this. Let's go back. And I'm going to close this. Close this here. We're going to go back over here to help. Learn Rhino, tutorials on the web. And let's pull up the level 1 user guide, because this is the links from our Canvas course. It basically tells you, okay, go to the introduction. Start reading through this. Okay. This is, now, this was written for Rhino 6 or later. Now, some of these, here's the Rhino interface. Some of these exercises require you to download or to open up a file. So let's, here's one, exercise 7.1, connect lines that intersect. So we're going to open up the model fillet.3dm. So how would we get to that model? If we go up to this tutorial, and again, we can resize these panels, fillet.3dm. Let's double click on that. We're not going to save changes to that other one. And here is that file. And if you notice, we go back. Now we can go through, all right, on the curve menu, click connect curves and click on this and this, right? Okay. Let's go back over there. We're going to go connect. Let's do that. We'll click here and click here. And look, they connected. It actually trimmed and joined them. Actually, it didn't join them. It just trimmed them. Okay, so that they touch. But this is how it works. You have files that it asks you to open, and then you can open them. And now what I'll need to do here is I would save this. Where it says save, here's where I need to go to this PC. And there's my metal server. I'd go to CAD 1. I'd go to our spring 2022 Bauer. And I would save it in my Barb Bauer, and I'm going to call this fillet and underscore Barb. I really think it's super important for you guys to put your name in your file names. And the reason for this is for when I grade them, because I have to download them as I grade them. If everybody names their fillet file fillet, then I have 10 files that say fillet, and I don't know whose is whose. So when I'm grading them, it can get a little confusing, and you don't want your piece to be graded for someone else and vice versa. Okay. And so that's how we get to the exercises, the exercise files, the exercise instructions. We work things on Canvas, and I am here to guide you through this. Don't feel like you have to go through these alone all the time. I'm happy to sit there with you to help explain some of these instructions. They're not always clear, especially if you're not familiar with the nomenclature for 3D modeling or for Rhino itself. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And I just thought that I would, I've been talking a lot. That happens on the first day. So I wanted to open this up for questions, if possible. And it would be great to at least see you guys' face a little bit, so I know what you look like, and just for a couple minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so if I download Rhino and like do the exercise on my laptop, like where can I submit it instead of like going to the remote access?
Okay, well, you submit them through Canvas.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to put them on the server, but you do need to submit them through Canvas. And here, let me show you. If we go here, I'm going to share. Okay, and go here. So we go to Canvas, we go to assignments. So let's say you just did exercise 4.4 from the Windows for Rhino interface. So we have the links here in the assignments, and understand that's under assignments. And then you're going to submit it down here. Let me go to the student view so you can see unpublished module. I don't know. I thought I published all these. Go back. Let's leave the student view and make sure that we're good here. Oh, that's right. All right, so now that is. So if we go to assignments, yeah, now I think they're published. Good, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so we go here. And this is when it's available. So it should be available now. And that's next week. So it's locked. Oh, here we go, where it says start assignment. Now you can upload that file right there. You'd hit that, you choose the file somewhere on your computer. Oh, we don't want that. Let's put a picture up, right? Put the file there, and there is no limit on the number of files that you can upload. If the assignment calls for 3 files, you can put that up. You put that in there and you hit submit assignment. And then I'll get a message that you submitted your file for that assignment. All right, we're going to leave student view. Yes. Okay. That's a great question. That is a great question. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, good question, Sultan. Any other questions? I'm sure there will be questions once you guys sit down to start. It's hard. I mean, it's kind of overwhelming, actually, between hearing the entire syllabus and talking about Canvas and remote access and this super complicated program that you're all going to learn this semester. So, but that's, any other questions? Does anybody have any particular interest in what we're doing this semester? Is there anything that you wanted to do that you know, if you want to share why you're taking CAD? Are you got anything? There is one thing that I do want to ask though. Is there anybody here who is not taking a jewelry class at all? Okay, so Summer, right? And Anne. Okay. Sultan, you are taking or you are not?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Okay, so we've got a few of you. When we get into creating our ring, and possibly even when we're attaching the pieces for our project one, I will need to give you guys a orientation to the studio, because we won't just be working, you know, at our computer. We'll be making a ring. We're going to be making a ring in metal. So you're going to need to know how to file. You're going to need to know how to use a jeweler's saw. You're going to need to understand about working with safety glasses and having your, you know, you have to wear a smock. Well, not a smock. What the heck do we call it? You know, like a jacket. You know, it's a fireproof jacket. We have torches and everything at every bench in the jewelry department. So I'm going to have to orient you guys as far as working in the jewelry department. If you are taking a jewelry class, either jewelry 1 or jewelry 2, that's great because you'll have a little bit more familiarity with using some of the tools, the files, the saws, those kinds of things, all hand tools. I have, you know, there's no reason. Okay. Okay. So Eiley, you asked, do we attach pieces in Rhino at the bench specifically for metal pieces? Well, you're going to be attaching things in Rhino generally, but for the layers project, where we cut things out of acrylic, you may want to attach those using rivets or glue. If you're using the acrylic solvent, you have to work in the fume hood in the CAD, or not in the CAD, in the main studio. So I'll be showing you that. There's a lot of health and safety around working with plastic. There's health and safety around working with metal. After you have your ring cast, you're going to have to cut off the sprue and file that spot where the sprue was attached. We'll talk about sprues. And so you will be doing some bench work, not especially in jewelry. When you work in CAD, it doesn't mean that you don't need to work at a bench at all. So yeah, you will be doing some bench work. But that's not a bad question either. Good point. Any others? Yeah. Okay. I am looking forward to meeting you all. We will, please watch your inbox for a update about the Zoom links. I do apologize for the confusion around the links. I'm not going to penalize anybody for being late today on the first day of class, especially with the confusion on the Zoom links. I had Zoom generate some through Canvas, and then they got copied and pasted wrong, I think, in that email that went out a few days ago. So in the meantime, my information is in the syllabus if you need it. Oh, yes, Summer.
So the Zoom link to meet for Wednesday is the one you sent in the email today, or should we try to use the Zoom link on Canvas?
I'm going to look and see which we need to use. So
Okay.
Please look in your inbox because I'm going to send out an update. This is the link. I want the same link for both days. I don't know how it ended up having two separate links. So, and I have to figure out which is the one that we should go with. And I'd have to be off screen for a bit to figure that out. So I'm going to do that shortly, and I'll probably send that out tonight.
Okay.
So that, I'll try to be real clear. This is the link. I am very sorry about that. But yeah, good question too. All right. Okay, well, I think I'll let you guys go a couple minutes early. As I said, my information is in the syllabus. If you need anything, you can email me or you can send me a text. And I will see you all online at noon on Wednesday. And I will, like I said, look for that link. It'll come out tonight. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'll be around if anybody needs anything else. Okay.